She went down fast, no stumble, just dropped. The tin cup flew from her grip, clanged off the pump, spun under the iron spout. She hit her knees, mouth foaming, clawing for the handle. The scarred drifter caught her, strong arm under her shoulders, rough palm closing over her hand as it flailed. His scar pulled his mouth into a crooked line when he spoke. Easy, her eyes rolled, white showing. Water. Not from here, he said. He kissed her hand once, steadying her. Her throat scraped. One word. Pike. Then another. Ledger. Bell rope. Her fingers locked on his sleeve, then went slack. He laid her down slow, shut her eyes with 2 fingers, and stood. The crowd shifted back, whispering. Trace touched the dark puddle under the spout, dabbed a bit on his tongue. Burnt soap sting. Poison. Back from the pump, he ordered. A boy's voice cracked. Who are you? Before he answered, hoofbeats came. 2 deputies rode in, pistols half drawn. Sheriff Pike followed, neat as Sunday, boots clean, hat sharp, blaze-faced horse. He took it in at a glance. Dead woman, scared crowd, scarred stranger. What's this? Pike asked. Poison, Trace said. The deputy barked a laugh. Pike raised a finger and the laugh died. He worked the handle, filled a cup, and drank. Wiped his mouth. Tastes fine. Trace pointed at the black stain. Drink that. Pike's eyes stayed cold. Your name? Trace? That all? That's enough. Caro, the banker, pushed in, vest tight, watch chain gleaming. Sheriff, wagon's already late. Don't stir panic. I stir what I please, Pike said. He nodded to Undertaker Crisp. Take her. The body was carried off. The crowd scattered like quail. Only the stain stayed. A single bell note rang out. Not a call, a test. Trace followed the sound. Inside the church, a barefoot girl with 2 braids dropped from the rope. She looked him over, unflinching. You kissed her hand, she said. What did she say? Don't drink. Pike, Ledger, bell rope. She said Ledger. He nodded. The girl tugged the splice in the rope, grease and lye smeared on the knot. Mama scrubbed co-op barrels till her hands bled, died coughing, said the poison's written before it's poured. Trace met her eyes. She left you the truth. The girl squared her shoulders. Name's Ruthie. You'll stay, I can tell. Trace didn't answer. He left her in the pew shadow and went to the livery. The stable boy popped up, one lazy eye, quick grin. Your paint's watered. Not the pump? Rain barrel. Trace flipped him a coin. If anyone touches his reins, I bite him, the boy said, hard. At the saloon, Luce poured coffee, set water, then pulled it back. Sheriff drinks to show folks. Trick ain't the swallow, trick's the story. Truth? Trace asked. People sick, mouths raw, mule dropped. Doc says heat. Heat don't rot gums. Trace finished the coffee. Who runs the barrels? Caro counts. Fitch watches. Pike makes it clean. Trace crossed to the co-op yard, barrels stacked high, smelling sharp. Fitch stepped out of the shade, knife thin. You lost? Trace scraped white crystals from a bung, touched tongue. The sting bloomed slow. Bad barrel, he said. Bad tongue, Fitch snapped. At the end of the lane, Pike stood watching. Calm. Still. Trace tipped his hat. Pike's nod was colder than any curse. Trace returned to the church after dark, climbed beams into the belfry. Pigeons scattered, wings thunderous. The boards creaked. His hand found a cloth bundle wedged under a brace. He pried it loose, nearly slipped, dropped back with it in his arms. Ledger, names, dates, shares, stars beside some, lines through others. In the margin, a scrap of sack, a girl's hand. Don't ring yet, Pastor Hale whispered from below. Close it, that book burns. Trace shook his head. Numbers don't lie, men do. The door eased open. Pike filled it, hat off, face calm. You climb like a thief, Pike said. Better than I fall. You took something not yours. Everything I own is, if you ask a badge. You upset folk. I pushed 1 cup away. You want to be a saint? No. Good. Saints draw crowds. Crowds break things. Pike nodded at the ledger. Hand it over. Trace slid it under his coat. Not yet. They stood a beat, weight heavy between them. Then Pike tipped his hat to Pastor Hale and stepped aside. Walk out, he said. Trace did, ledger under his coat, Ruthie's note burning in his head. Don't ring yet. The pump still ran. The town still drank. Pike still watched, and Trace knew the night would bring worse. Trace didn't sleep. He stayed on the scrub ridge above the river road, knees bent, rifle across them, ledger under his coat. He watched the lights of the town dim one by one until only the church lamp burned, faint as a star. Coyotes barked down in the gullies. He waited. Near midnight, hooves thudded on the packed earth. 3 wagons crept out of the dark, wheels muffled with rags, mule bells tied short. 4 riders ghosted alongside with rifles slung low. Trace's scar pulled tight as he smiled grim. These weren't freight runs. This was dozing night. The wagon stopped at the co-op gate. Fitch stepped out of the shadows and swung the gate open with a tilt of his head. No words, just habit. 1 wagon peeled toward the pump. A man climbed down, a sack slung over his shoulder. Lantern light flashed on the glass inside. Trace shifted, slid closer through brush. The man met a deputy at the pump. "You're late," the deputy said. "Axle split," the man muttered. He drew out a bottle, thick-necked, clear gold liquid inside. He hefted it, grinning. 2 drops a gallon, enough to keep him soft. The deputy smirked. "Town don't taste a thing." Trace stepped into the lantern glow. "Drop it." Both men spun. The deputy fired. The shot sparked off the iron pump, showering sparks. Trace lunged, slammed the bottle man in the ribs, ripped the sack free. Glass clinked like bones in a graveyard. He shoved the man away and pivoted. The deputy came fast. Trace caught his wrist, slammed an elbow into his jaw. The man's teeth clicked loud as rocks. Trace broke loose, spun, and bolted into the shadows with the sack clutched tight. Bullets hissed past, cutting the night. He ran blind, leaping barrels, cutting alleys, boots hammering. He didn't look back, straight into the livery. "Kid!" The stable boy jerked up from a hay pile, one eye wandering, the other wide. "Mister?" Trace shoved him the sack. "Up the ladder. Loft, under hay. Don't touch, don't sniff." The boy swallowed hard but dragged it up rung by rung. Straw poured down like rain. Trace listened till the scrape of hay muffled the glass. Then he spun back toward the pump. Too late. The bottle man jammed a funnel into the pump feed, hands shaking, deputy shoving him. Lantern swung low. The liquid sloshed. Trace charged. He slammed the pump handle down with his shoulder. The funnel flew out, clattered across the boards. 2 drops splashed into the dirt and hissed like snakes. The deputy raised his pistol again. "Hold!" Pike's voice cut clean through the night. The gun froze. Pike stepped into the light, coat buttoned, boots untouched by mud, eyes sharp as glass. He looked at Trace, steady, unbothered. "You broke my pump," Pike said. "I saved it." "Where's the sack?" Trace didn't answer. Pike smiled, small. "Morning. You wear irons." "Why wait?" Trace asked. "Because I've wagons to count and a story to tell." He waved a finger. Deputies pulled back like hounds called off. Trace forced his hands calm, though his blood roared. He wanted Pike's throat in his grip. Not yet. He slipped into the churchyard. Ruthie was waiting, bare feet on cold boards, thin dress hanging loose. She held up a bent iron key, black with use. "Mama's," she said. "Locks the pump foot, kills the pull." Trace took it. Heavy, edges worn smooth by work. "You sure?" "She made me promise," Ruthie said. "Said if I smelled soap where water should be, I turn the key. I smell it now." Trace knelt at the pump base. He pried open the hatch, slid the square key in, turned. The pipe groaned, metal grinding. Another quarter turn, then the pump gave a long sigh and went still, like a chest giving up air. The pump was dead. Trace stood, wiping his hands on his coat. "Safe now. Or empty," Ruthie whispered. By dawn, the crowd gathered with buckets and cups. They pressed around the pump, muttering. Nothing came out but dry wheeze. Pike rode in, neat as ever. Deputies flanked him, pistols easy. He raised a hand. "This stranger broke your water," Pike called. His voice carried, steady, calm. "He stole your peace." Trace stepped up, ledger under his arm. "I stopped poison." "Lies," Pike snapped. Trace pulled the ledger out, raised it high. "Truth's in here." The crowd surged forward, necks craning. Caro barked from the steps. "That's co-op business, not for drifters." Trace opened the book. Names, liens, deliveries, marks. He read aloud. McKean, starved, lien unpaid. Sutter, marked for seizure, all signed clean. Faces in the crowd went white. Pike's eyes narrowed. "You'll hand that to me." Trace shook his head. "Not yet." Deputies pushed through. Folks stepped back fast. No one wanted to be caught between. "You wear irons," Pike said again. "Now." Trace glanced once at Ruthie. She stood on the church steps, small but straight, chin high. He tucked the ledger tight under his arm. Then he ran. The crowd split in screams and curses. Deputies shouted, boots pounding behind. Pike's horse screamed and lunged forward. Trace cut through alleys, dodged wash lines, vaulted barrels. The ledger thumped against his ribs. Pike's men chased hard, rifles raised. He didn't look back. He never did. Because behind him, the whole town had woken, and the hunt had begun. Trace ran. The ledger thumped against his ribs, his boots hammering alleys. Behind him, deputies' shouts bounced off walls. Horses screamed. He vaulted a barrel, cut left, shoved through a wash line that snapped and wrapped his shoulder. He tore free and kept moving. A bullet spat chips from the wall beside his head. "Don't let him out!" a deputy roared. Trace ducked through the back of the tinsmith's, smoke choking his eyes, sparks dancing from the forge. The blacksmith swore as Trace burst past but didn't stop him. He climbed the rear fence, dropped into a pig pen, and splashed through muck. Another bullet cracked. The pig squealed and bolted. Trace climbed out, hands slick. On the street, more boots. Pike's voice carried, steady and calm. "Don't shoot him down. Bring him breathing." Trace ducked into a lean-to, pulled himself onto a low roof, rolled and flattened. Deputies ran below, rifles ready, not thinking to look up. From the roof, he saw the town, lanterns lit in windows, shadows at curtains, folks awake, listening to the chase. He saw fear more than faces. Pike's fear, not his. Trace slid down the far side and hit the dirt, panting, blood singing in his ears. He pushed into the saloon's back door. Luce was waiting, already with a lantern low. "Upstairs," she whispered. He climbed fast, ducked into her storeroom. She barred the door. Her face was pale, hair loose. "Whole town heard Pike," she said. "He's telling them you broke the pump, stole water, killed that woman." "People believe?" "Some. Enough." Trace leaned against the wall, chest heaving. "Ledger says different." "Ledger's ink," Luce said. "Pike's voice is law. That's what folks hear loudest." Trace set his rifle down, pulled the ledger from his coat, thumbed the pages. The ink seemed to pulse in the lamplight. Names, debts, futures stolen with neat marks. "He kills quiet," Trace said. "That woman wasn't the first, won't be the last." Luce touched his scar, brief, almost motherly. "You're one man against a town that doesn't know it's poisoned." Trace didn't answer. His silence was answer enough. Boots thundered outside. Deputies. Luce pressed her back to the door, whispering, "Stay still." The deputies passed, voices low. The saloon quieted again. Trace let out one long breath. He holstered his pistol, tucked the ledger back tight. "You'll burn for this," Luce whispered, "but you'll burn him first." He slipped out the back before dawn. The next day, the bell rang. Not for worship, not for fire, for gathering. The whole town came. Trace watched from the shadows of the milliard, hat low. Pike stood on the steps of the co-op office, Caro by his side, Fitch at his shoulder. Deputies ringed the crowd like fence posts. Pike raised a hand. The crowd hushed. "Last night," Pike said, "a drifter came into our town. He poisoned our peace, broke your pump, stole what keeps you alive, and he carries lies on his tongue, black as his scar." The crowd murmured. Some nodded, others frowned. Pike's voice rose. "He murdered a woman to frame me. He stole our ledger to ruin our name. He hides now like a thief." Trace's hands curled on the ledger under his coat. He wanted to shout. He wanted to step into the open and split Pike's tongue with the truth. But he stayed still. Too many guns, too many ears ready to hear only Pike. In the crowd, Trace saw Ruthie. Small, barefoot, chin high. She didn't move, didn't flinch. Her eyes met his through the gaps. She gave one small nod. Trace eased back into the milliard's shadows. That night, deputies came hunting. Trace hid among broken barrels, the mill wheel creaking slow. Rats skittered, boots scraped. 2 deputies, rifles ready, searching. Trace waited till one passed the broken window. He moved silent, fast. He swung the ledger like a club, cracked the first man across the temple. The man went down hard. The second spun. Trace slammed him against the wall, fist to his throat. "Where's Pike keeping the rest?" Trace hissed. The deputy spat blood. "Wagons, always wagons." Trace dropped him. Both men groaned in the dark. He didn't finish them, not yet. He slipped out, but another shape waited. Fitch, knife already in hand, smile thin. "Thought you'd last longer," Fitch said. Trace drew. The two circled, steel and gun catching moonlight. Fitch lunged. Trace fired once. Fitch staggered, knife still swinging, clipped Trace's arm. Blood hot, sharp. Fitch fell, knife clattering. Trace clutched his arm, teeth bared. Fitch lay still, chest leaking red. Shouts rose, more deputies drawn by the shot. Trace bolted. He ran blind through alleys, arm burning. Ledger still clutched. The chase drove him down toward the river. Moonlight silvered the current. Trees bent black on the banks. Trace stumbled to the edge. Deputies closed in, rifles trained. Pike rode in slow, calm, reins loose. He dismounted, boots clean even in the mud. He looked at Trace like a man looks at a nail he means to hammer. "Ledger," Pike said. Trace's scar tugged when he smiled. "Not yours." "You're finished," Pike said. "Town hates you. You've no horse, no friends, nowhere to run." "I got water," Trace said. He glanced at the river. "Not yours to poison." Pike's jaw tightened. "Last chance." Trace's laugh was low, cracked. "You had yours, years back. You wasted it." The deputies cocked rifles. Trace hugged the ledger to his chest once, like a Bible. Then he dove. The river seized him, cold, hard, dragging. He surfaced once, saw torches flashing, Pike shouting orders. Then the current spun him away, carried him down, swallowed him into black. By dawn, word spread. Sheriff Pike told the town the drifter drowned. Folks nodded, muttered, went about chores. Relief mixed with doubt. At the church, Ruthie sat on the steps, braids loose, eyes on the river's line far off. She whispered, soft, "He'll come back." No one heard but the bell above her, hanging heavy and silent. The river spat him out like it wanted no part of him. Trace clawed through reeds, lungs burning, coughing water. He lay there half dead, ledger still tied to his chest under his coat. The scar on his face throbbed with every heartbeat. His arm bled where Fitch's knife had cut deep. He rolled onto his back. Stars wheeled overhead, cold and sharp. He laughed once, bitter. Pike thought him drowned. That suited him fine. Trace dragged himself under the roots of a cottonwood, wrapped his coat tighter, and let the dark take him. He woke at dawn to a soft voice. "Thought you'd be bones." Ruthie knelt beside him, dress torn at the hem, braid loose. She pressed a rag to his arm, hand steady despite the blood. "How'd you find me?" Trace rasped. "Bell rope pulled me," she said simply. He managed a crooked smile. "You believe in ghosts?" "I believe in work. You still breathing, that's work." She wrapped his wound tight. "Pike says you drowned. He's telling folks water's safe again, but the pump's still dry. People don't trust him all the way. Not anymore." Trace sat up slow. "Ledger's proof. It's all we got." Ruthie touched the book where it bulged under his coat. "Mama said paper kills more than bullets. If folks hear it read, maybe they'll listen." "Maybe," Trace muttered. "But Pike'll hang me before I finish a page." Ruthie's eyes burned fierce. "Then don't let him." That night, Trace limped back into town. He came through alleys, hat low, coat drawn. Luce opened her saloon door a crack, hissed him in. "You're supposed to be river bait," she said, voice sharp but eyes wide with relief. "River spit me out," Trace said. She poured whiskey, shoved it into his hand. He drank, coughed, felt fire fill his chest. He laid the ledger on her table, pages damp, ink smudged but still legible. He flipped them, showed her names, families marked for liens, land taken before debts were even missed. "Caro's hand on every page," Trace said, "and Pike signs the marks." Luce leaned close, face pale. "Half this town's lives bought and sold. Even my bar tabs lined Caro's pocket." Trace closed the book. "If they hear it read, they'll turn." "Or they'll turn on you," Luce warned. Trace's scar tugged into a grin. "That's been my luck before." 2 nights later, Pike called a gathering. Torches ringed the square, barrels rolled out, full and gleaming. Deputies stood in hard lines. Caro preened at his side, watch chain glinting. Pike raised a cup. "Order restored," he said, voice smooth. "Water flows again. Fear is dead. The drifter's gone, carried by the river like trash. We drink to peace." The crowd clapped, weak, uncertain. Some raised cups, but many only watched. Eyes darted, murmurs stirred. Trace stepped from the dark. "No peace in poison." Gasps ripped the crowd. Heads turned. Pike froze, cup in hand. Deputies jerked rifles up. Trace walked slow, bloodied but standing, ledger in one hand, rifle slung in the other. He raised the book high. Ledger says different. Silence thickened. Pike's voice snapped. He's dead. That's a ghost. Trace's scar twisted into a grin. Scar don't vanish with drowning. Ruthie ran to the church steps. Her small hands gripped the bell rope. She pulled once, hard. The bell tolled, deep and solemn. One note that cut through silence like a blade. Trace opened the ledger, voice carrying, McKean, farm seized before Leon Dew. Sutter, debts doubled in ink never owed. Evans, livestock branded co-op before court signed. Faces in the crowd shifted. Men turned to wives, wives to men. Murmurs swelled. Trace jabbed a finger at Caro. He wrote the theft. Pike enforced it. Every drop you drank came with their mark on it. Caro's face went white. He backed a step. Pike's jaw tightened. He stepped forward. Enough, Pike snapped. You slander with ink. You break towns with lies. Trace dropped the ledger at his feet. Truth's heavier than your badge. The crowd parted, uneasy. Deputies raised rifles, but none fired. Too many eyes now, too much doubt. Pike's hand went to his pistol. Then we settle it clean. The square cleared, circle wide. Pike and Trace faced each other, 10 paces apart. Trace's arm throbbed, vision swam, but his scar pulled him steady. Pike was fast, calm, sure. Trace knew it. Everyone knew it. Ruthie's voice carried small but sharp. Ring him clean. The bell hung silent above. Pike drew first. Trace dropped to a knee as the shot tore past. He fired once, missed. Pike's second bullet grazed his shoulder, spun him half around. Trace gritted his teeth, steadying. Pike advanced, eyes cold. Ledger dies with you, Pike said. Trace fired again. The round caught Pike in the thigh. The sheriff staggered but didn't fall. He raised his pistol, smile cruel. Last shot, Pike whispered. Trace waited, breathing once, twice, then squeezed. The bullet caught Pike's center chest. His smile froze. He dropped his pistol, staggered, and fell in the dust. Silence swallowed the square. Pike lay still. Trace lowered his smoking gun, chest heaving. Caro bolted, pushing through the stunned crowd. Deputies scattered, their law gone with their sheriff. Ruthie ran to Trace, face streaked with tears, braids swinging. She grabbed his hand, small and strong. You rang him clean, she whispered. Trace sagged against the pump. Luce stepped forward, eyes hard but proud. Town's yours if you want it. Trace shook his head. Town's theirs. Ledger's proof. Water's life. Keep it safe. He handed Ruthie the ledger. Her small hands clutched it tight. Your mama was right, Trace said softly. Rope rings clean. At dawn, Trace saddled his horse, arm bound, side aching, but alive. Folks gathered quiet, watching. Some touched their hats, some whispered thanks, others just stared, unsure. Ruthie stood on the church steps, ledger pressed to her chest. You'll come back? She asked. Trace looked at her, scar twisting into the smallest smile. If the rope calls. He touched his hat, swung into the saddle, and rode. Behind him, the bell tolled once. The town watched as the scarred drifter disappeared into the horizon, leaving behind water unpoisoned, a ledger heavy with truth, and a girl who believed in work, not ghosts.